The engineer lets out a chuckle. It's a hoarse, barking sound. You don't know a damn thing. I know we have something you want, something you're willing to die for. Death is nothing. Nothing. If you'd seen what I've seen, you would know for yourselves. The chip, it opens your eyes. Slot one and you become a god. Iger stares at him, her expression flat. The engineer sneers. I too was a skeptic, and then the wolf caught me, and the raven opened my eyes, and now at last I can see. Suddenly he lurches forward. Every muscle in his body goes tight, and the cords stand out on his neck. Give me the chip. It was promised to me. I need it. Tell us who you're working for, and it's all yours. The engineer spits out a mouthful of blood. It hits the tile floor with a sickening splat. He grinds his teeth and snarls out a single word. Winter night. There is a moment of silence. Finally, Iger speaks. Never heard of them. Of course you haven't, bitch. If you had, you'd already be dead. They don't leave loose ends. His body begins to tremble. It looks like the drugs are wearing off. They have the money, she-troll, money and influence, enough to put the syndicates to shame. Even I cannot say how much, but I do know what I've seen is just the tip of the spear. All right, let's say that you're telling the truth and some sort of secret society is behind this. What do they want with Shot Nest? They do not tell me these things. All I know is that they want to store things here. Crates, boxes, shipped in from all over. No cargo inspections and no traces back to them. What are they shipping in? Weapons? Drugs? More of these BTLs? He eyes her incredulously. You think I asked them? It's not my place to know. All that I know is what was promised to me. Give me the chip. His voice comes out in a shivering screech. You promised. She promised you the chip. Iger smiles at the engineer. Slowly she pulls a knife from her belt. Its serrated edge glints in the light. I, on the other hand, didn't offer you a goddamn thing. I don't like any of these answers because none of them are like, hey Iger, what the fuck? Put the knife away, Iger. I gave him my word. She turns to stare at you. You're not suggesting that we let this monster live, are you? Do you know what's going to happen when his cyberware powers back up? I'm suggesting that we keep my promise. If he wants the chip so badly, give it to him. She looks at the chip in her fingers, then down at the engineer's trembling body. Slowly, a smile spreads across her face. Not unless he sweetens the deal. You hear that, Yuli? I'll give you what you want, but you need to make it worth my while. He licks his lips and nods feverishly. I have a stash here in this warehouse, a custom rifle. It's all yours if you give me what's mine. Iger looks back over to you and raises an eyebrow. I could use a new rifle. What do you think, fearless leader? Deal. Once we know where the stash is, give him the chip. The engineer nods feverishly. Over there, in the corner. There's a duffel bag under the floor plate. Now give it to me. All right, Yuli, it's all yours. Iger leans in and grabs the engineer's head with her left hand, then pries his chip jack open with her right. She slaps the chip into the jack, then clicks it shut. Seconds pass. Nothing happens. What have you done? Why don't I feel anything? Oops, sorry, Yuli. I guess the cyberware deactivator shut down your chip jack, too. Somewhere in the back of that addled skull, I'm sure that you probably knew that, but hope springs eternal, doesn't it? I said that we'd give you the chip. I never promised that it would work. I'm going to kill you. Do you hear me? I'll rip out your spine. Good luck with that. The engineer's eyes bulge, and he beats the back of his head against the floor. He opens his mouth to speak again, but the only sound that comes out is a gurgling scream. Iger takes a step back. Something's wrong. Look at his hands. The orc's mil-spec cyber arms are twitching. His fingers seem to move of their own accord, writhing aimlessly in the air. The light on his chipjack begins to blink. How long was that cyberware deactivator supposed to last? She reaches for her shotgun. Longer than this. I'm gonna kill Bannock when... The engineer's body surges forward, a violent, convulsive motion. His eyes bulge out of his skull. Then his chest evaporates in a spray of light. Whoa. Step back, Alice. Way back. As you watch, the chemical fire that rages from the engineer's body blackens his flesh and spits sparks across the room. It's the same reaction that you saw when the drone went up, a thermite reaction. It takes him a full minute to stop twitching. His employers, Winternight, they must have implanted that thing in him. Yeah, and judging by the way he reacted, he didn't know they'd done it. They must have thrown it in while he was getting other work done. I'm willing to bet if we hadn't used the cyborg deactivator on him, he'd have gone up before he had the chance to spill any names. If you were looking for proof of who his employer was, I think this was it. She nods and casts a final glance at the charred remains of the engineer. Yeah, we know who to warn the flux state about. Let's grab the rifle and go. We're done here. You reach into the vent and retrieve a navy blue duffel bag, just as the engineer said you would. The distinctive shape of a rifle barrel can be seen through the canvas. Here you go, Iger. All yours. She takes the bag from you and unzips it. Her eyes go wide. When he said that this was custom, he wasn't kidding. Gingerly, she reaches into the bag and pulls out a sleek, angular shape. This is a Steyr AUG CSL multi-weapon system. A very nice and very expensive piece of hardware. Yuli put a lot of aftermarket work into this. I don't even recognize some of the accessories he's bolted onto this thing. You feel comfortable using it? She shoulders the rifle and peers through its scope. A grin grows on her face. Yes, I do. It looks like these aftermarket mods have more or less locked it into an assault rifle configuration, but that's all right. I've been looking for a worthy mid-range weapon, and this'll do nicely. She slings the rifle, then clasps you on the shoulder. Come on, fearless leader. Let's get back home. This is weird, because there's no way we're actually doing this, but I'm curious. Hang on, Iger. I'm not comfortable leaving Winternight to the flux state. I think that we should handle them ourselves. What you're suggesting is beyond the scope of our capabilities. We don't have any contacts in Norway. We wouldn't even know where to begin looking for Winternight, and if we found them, what then? The two of us aren't going to stop an international conspiracy on our own. We're good, but we're not that good. You've got a point there. We'll let the flux state handle it. Good call. Let's go. All right, back out the way we came, I guess. Yeah, there's the exit. Okay. I'm assuming we're not going to have to fight anyone outside. Hoping. Oh, I guess we're going to travel immediately. Never mind. The U-Bahn whisks you back towards the cruise bazaar, Iger standing by your side. The image of the engineer's body disintegrating in flame replays itself over and over in your mind. The bright flash, the shower of sparks, the overpowering stench of sizzling meat. A blue-green afterimage hangs suspended in the center of your field of vision, and it refuses to be blinked away. From what Iger told you, the engineer was a menace, an international criminal at the top of his game, and as you watched, he was consumed from within by a device that marked him as disposable. The rattle of your U-Bahn car coming to a halt shakes you from your reverie. You're home. All right. Let's talk to Iger, and then we'll cut this. So I don't think anyone else is going to have anything new to say about this. Iger welcomes you with a nod. Alice, what can I do for you? Any thoughts about the last run? We should talk about what happened with the engineer. She nods. Agreed. I'm ready to go over it if you are. So the engineer was working for a secret society. I wasn't expecting that. Neither was I. She frowns. A part of me is still having trouble believing it, but it's true. Yuli wasn't lying. I could see it in his eyes. Have you been able to do any digging on Winter Night? No, there just isn't much reliable information out there. Whoever these guys are, they're very good at information control. None of my contacts could find anything but rumor and conjecture, and most of that is too crazy to even consider. How crazy are we talking here? Completely insane. Stories about magical nukes and the end of the world. Fenris shamans, Ragnarok, that kind of thing. She shakes her head. Like I said, nuts. There are a lot of crazy things going on in this world. Doesn't mean they're not real. She nods slowly. Yes, there are, and no, it doesn't. But this is just too far out for me to accept. It's far more likely that they release these stories themselves to throw people off whatever they're really doing. Anyway, he stopped him cold and shot nest. Whatever their business is, whatever was going to be in those crates that the engineer was having shipped there, it isn't our problem anymore. The Kriz Bazaar is safe, on that front at least. I don't know about that. Given that the guy they sent there was going to die there, I don't know that we actually stopped anything. It seems to make more sense that if they sent him there to, like, establish a connection and we didn't wipe out the gang, like, I don't think the gang was those 4 people, that, like, there's a pretty good chance we didn't do anything except for get that one guy, kill those 4 people, well, 6, I get the 2 guys outside, and then the engineer. I hope you're right. Chin up, fearless leader. We did good back there. Besides which, we still have a dragon to worry about. When I left that room to search for clues, the engineer told you something. Something that pushed you over the edge. Her eyes narrow. That son of a bitch said a lot of things. What of it? What do you think? I want to know what he told you. With all due respect, that's none of your business, Alice. Isn't it? You beat the tar out of that man because of what he told you. As your team leader, I need to know why that happened. It takes her a long time to respond. When she does, her voice carries a tone of resignation. You really want to know? All right, fine, I'll tell you. He told me about a bunch of Polish towns that my unit swept for syndicate activity. He told me how the mob poured back in right after we left and what they did to the people who'd accepted our help. He told me about the beatings, the rapes, the killing rooms, the torture, and worse. He relished in describing it, the relentless, hideous barbarism of it all meant to teach some sort of lesson. I think that's the cruelest part of this entire story. Those people, they didn't need a lesson in how terrible life can be. They live with it every day. Yuli seemed to find all of this hilarious. Yeah, I know he was pushing my buttons on purpose, and yeah, I know he was trying to make me lose control. But the hell with it. He deserved a good beating. Yuli didn't pull any punches, so I didn't pull any punches. And if you have a problem with that, you can go and get fucked. Well, Iger, you know what? I fucking do. If you can't pull yourself together, then, I don't know, a whole lot of things about your history start to come into focus, and maybe you're not having any fucking character development here. My problem isn't with Yuli getting punished. It's with the fact that you let him play you. Maybe, but I can't ignore the possibility that he wasn't playing me, that these things did happen. She grits her teeth. That'd be a bitter pill to swallow, Alice. If I leave things where they stand, There will always be some hope that he was lying, but if I dig into this and find that he was telling the truth, if I find out that none of what we did meant anything, even if he was telling the truth, that doesn't invalidate what your unit was doing over there. Doesn't it? Our actions might have drawn attention to those people, made them targets. They were already targets. You need to quit beating yourself up over this, Iger. It isn't like you. She gives you a brusque nod. You're right. It isn't. No more moping about, I promise. And I will look into this, Alice. Wherever this trail leads me, I'll follow it. And I won't stop until I find the truth. I'm willing to help you see this through if you want the help. She shakes her head. Thanks, but no, not now at least. At some point after we're done with what we're doing, I'll look into this. I'll get to the truth, whatever it might be, but I'm not going to do it today. Sounds like your priorities are in the right place. She nods. I'd like to think so. Now let's change tack. Is there anything else from the run that you'd like to go over? She folds her arms across her chest. If you have any thoughts, I want to hear them. Have you had the chance to play with that rifle that we got from the engineer's stash? Yeah, it's a beautiful piece of engineering. Shoots straight, has good stopping power, holds a big magazine. She nods appreciatively. Really nice gun. You mentioned a bunch of aftermarket mods when we found it. Have you figured out what they do yet? Just one. You can tag a chambered round with an RF transmitter. After the round hits a target, the transmitter pings on a designated channel, broadcasting the target's exact location to anyone listening in. In layman's terms, you can use this thing to mark a target. There's cyberware that does the same thing, and Deckers do it all the time, but this is the first time I've seen this kind of functionality on a rifle. Not bad. Not bad at all. Agreed. I've been reluctant to cart an AR along with me and up until now. In my opinion, the added mid-range stopping power didn't justify the trouble of carrying another big, bulky weapon into the field. Being a walking arsenal is fine and good, but it's also noisy and cumbersome, and those are two things that every sniper tries to avoid. Well, you are pretty big, and also it's weird that they're using the Steyr AUG and a real world weapon for this, because the Steyr is both fairly compact and fairly lightweight. I think it's one of the lighter 5.56 rifles around, and it's a bullpup, which means it's like I want to say it's at least like 6 or 8 inches shorter than the standard ARs that most of the NATO nations are fielding these days. I mean, it also has a bunch of problems, which is why it wasn't very popular. But it is funny. It just makes me wonder if it's like, ooh, the Steyr AUG, it looks kind of funny, so we'll put it in our cyberpunk game. Is that the whole reason? Is just like, ooh, it looks cool? Anyway. She pats the engineer's rifle. This thing, though, this adds enough utility that I think it's worth the extra weight. We'll find a way to make it work. That's all, Iger. Thanks for the talk. Thank you, Fearless Leader, both for the chat and for the assist on the run. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Nothing right now, Iger. Okay, well, that was an adventure. That whole storyline was pretty like, it's not bad. But it's compared especially to like having just done Glory's story. That was very disappointing by comparison. Like a shadow of Glory's story. I also don't particularly like that we don't seem to be getting much character development from Iger. She's just kind of the same character as before, but maybe respecting us a bit more. And that's not character development. And then just I didn't like the choices that we were and weren't allowed to make during that mission. A lot of it felt like being led around by the nose. The whole thing felt underwritten. and it feels a little more like, well, we got to have one of these for each of the characters. I don't know. Iger continues to be a disappointment of a character for me in terms of the writing. Not that the concept is bad by any means, it's just that the execution has been continually sloppy. And we got two karma for it, but that's fine. Anyway, yeah, we'll stop here, and when we come back, I think the only thing left to do next, unless I accidentally stumble into another side mission, is to do the OTK International heist. Anyway, see you guys for that next time.